Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. This is your hub for engaging in deep conversations around serotonergic hallucinogens that alter perceptions, affect cognitive processes, induce mystical and spiritual experiences. Enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Psychedelic Conversations podcast. I have with me today Daniel Torres, a really good friend of mine. And he is an expert in the field of alternative and holistic medicines for healing and well being. And he's been passionate about building and supporting communities in addiction recovery for most of his life. And very excited to speak with him today. Welcome to the show, Daniel. So good to have you.
Good afternoon, Susan from East Coast, New Jersey. Yeah. And I'm excited to be here and let's do this. So
amazing. So,
thank you for the intro.
For sure. So great to have you. So we're going to dive in straight into the medicine, the plant medicine kratom.
Okay.
Yeah. And
let's do it.
I'm sure there's going to be lots of listeners who are probably interested in knowing and finding out more and learning more about this medicine. So if you could tell us, before I do want to go into your story as well, but let's begin with the medicine and then we can weave in some of your stories and your relationship with the medicine.
I'm going to do my best. The kratom community, the kratom industry is at its infancy. And at the infancy of the industry itself, it's being gated and protected, for whatever interests and agendas and propaganda. The kratom plant itself, I'm in the USA. A lot of people here, we say kratom, from it's a Thai word, and Thai word, just Southeast Asia. The kratom originates from. It has a bunch of different names: kratom, cray, even just a bunch of stuff that I can't pronounce. It's related to the coffee plant in the family, and so it does go towards the direction of a stimulant type. I mean, there's rumors, and I mean, depending on who you talk to, I talk to people who's been in the industry for generations. I mean, they don't even know how far back in generations it goes. But initially, it was used for the day worker. It's used for the people who, want to maximize the efficiency of their day. And I mean, you would hear stories. Some people have used it like for diarrhea, fevers. I've read one or two stories with for diabetic, for whatever reason, like the scientific portion of it. Kratom itself is being studied heavily in today's time. More than, I would say, within the last few years, it's been extremely popular in the United States and globally. So the history of kratom, it could go back from like the 1800s, or it could even start a few years ago here in the USA. But traditionally, it comes from Southeast Asia. It has a rich culture, rich history, and it was used productively. I know in Thailand, the date exactly, but I know Thailand went towards the direction of making it illegal simply because it was cutting into their profits of the opium. People who, I guess, would seek opium for whatever reasons and benefits, naturally would choose this plant too, in essence. But I would say, like, when it comes to the opium itself, it leaves most people unfunctional, and this is something that, I've used myself, of course, and it's just, I've never been unfunctional, like, using it. If anything, I use it like today for the benefits. And I would say very ritually, because I do like it in the mornings. I do like it after my coffee. I put a lot of intentions into it and just hope that, my day is good, without even putting like much attention to what I just took. It's just, for me, it's a plant. That's it, so.
Yeah. I like the way that you treat it as a plant medicine, like any other plant
Absolutely.
medicine.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that it has a spirit, acknowledging that it has healing
Absolutely,
powers.
it does.
And I like the fact that it's a family from a coffee family, strain from a coffee family. So it sounds like in the back in the day in Thailand, they used it for just like we used coffee in the West
Absolutely.
nowadays, right?
Absolutely.
Productivity, function, improving the functionality, focus, clarity, maybe more energy, possibly. But let's kind of go into where the addiction part comes in, because obviously in the West, people are not using kratom just for productivity. There is another reason why they use it, and Dr. Mate calls it opioid epidemic in the US. He talks about a lot of people so much in pain, physical pain, and they are being prescribed opioids. And now he says the biggest epidemic is actually the opioids. So, and we did have conversations in the past before where you said people usually come to kratom because they want to wean off the opiates.
Okay, well, that right there, it would be yes and no. I would say yes, because it's where I saw myself, and there is a niche, there is a community, and a decent amount of the kratom consumers, which would I would say most popular in the last few years, have favored kratom. And it is because the plant itself does attach to opiate receptors. Sorry, give me 1 minute. But at the same time, it's not an opiate. It's in the coffee family. So now, I mean, depending on what you read and what you know of the opiate crisis, this is something that's been going on. And I mean, I don't want to, like, it may be pushed, for whatever reasons, for a really, really long time. And naturally, I would just say that there's just people who are done, like, besides the how you say it, like, besides just I mean, after a while, people see for themselves what's going on, even just with addiction, and the opiate, crisis in the United States. And like I said, and it is somewhat biased of going towards the direction of saying that the majority of kratom users are in recovery.
And that's not true.
No, not at all. There's close to 30 million people globally that use kratom daily. It's just that the portion that is loud, I would say, and I call them a loud customer base, would be people in recovery. And of course, like, they want to share what's working with them. They want to share everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to addiction, because in part of addiction and recovery, sharing is a platform. It's fundamental in recovery.
I like that. It's like healing out loud. We call it
very much, because it's almost like some would say that, and I believe it too, that addiction itself is manifested. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's part of the trauma healing, as you know. It is no secret now that a lot of people who's gone through deeply wounded with traumas, they do usually develop these addictions.
Right.
And addiction, as Dr. Mate says, it could be anything. I mean, some of us are addicted to shopping, like some of us are addicted to food.
Right.
And it's no different, right? And obviously, some of the recreational drugs, obviously, they come at the top of the list as an addiction.
Of course. I mean, because they engineered that way. I mean, end of the day, let's just be real about it. Certain drugs, especially when you have men in between the natural and the spirit of how the plant is naturally God-given, it's engineered to, they want to be hooked. They want people to be hooked. You know, look at morphine. Before morphine was an issue, they came out with heroin in the efforts of neutralizing and recovery for morphine. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
it's just like one thing led to another, one thing.
Yeah, I mean, even in the essence of the opiate pandemic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, I mean, look at even the solutions of today, you know, of Suboxone, you know what I mean, of methadone. Those are drugs and solutions that, they want to help, but it's still, I mean, you know, I'm not against pharma or anything, because I feel that pharma or natural medicine, you know, it brings you to the same point if you put the effort and direction behind it. You know what I mean?
I really like that.
Saying,
mm-hmm.
But
being
what I'm
intentional,
saying is
being intentional in the way
absolutely.
that we use it. And like, you know, I think it was Hamilton Morris says that these were not here to be used for life. Like if it's opiates or.
But yeah. When it comes to all natural stuff, I believe that. You know, but then when it comes to engineer stuff and pharma stuff, I mean, it doesn't seem like they want to let go of a customer. I mean, you know, so it's really up to the person to take that into consideration and just how everything is moving, you know, and their best interests.
You know what, Daniel, I love the most part here is having the extreme ownership and taking care of your own health. And
boom. So
having the realization.
So there.
Exactly. It's not about the pharma, because pharmaceutical meds have saved a lot of lives. It's not here to separate, but also it's easier to point a finger and have the separation, good and bad. But here's the thing. I think in my experience as well, plant medicines are teaching us to take ownership of our own health and our own well-being. And that's, I like that aspect, the holistic approach to whether they can be using, you know, pharmaceutical
they could be using
meds and also have and enjoy their kratom, as long as they are responsible, I believe. So, you know, does it cause any addiction? Is it true that
but that's the thing. I mean, it's and that's where there's a huge gray area. That's where I mean, it's just, there's agenda, there's propaganda, and then there's reality. You know, reality is that if anything remotely has some type of benefits, there's going to be someone that abuses it. You know, there's going to be someone that hurts themselves with it. There's going to be people who push it to the limit of, it's not even, you know, they're trying to make, you know, everything has a limit, you know, that they're going to push it. So if a person does have an addictive trait, and we've talked about addiction, and like you said, it could be a substance, it could be a people, it could be things, it could be places, it could be behaviors, it could be a mindset, you know, it could be, I mean, look at the phone, you know what I mean? So can it be? Yeah. I noticed, like with me, like I noticed that when I did get into kratom, and even from the very, very beginning, my addiction brought me to it. You understand? So like if I didn't realize that my addiction was leading my recovery, I'm always going to look for another substance. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And this is the point that we always talk about, whether it's here in a podcast, whether it's our, you know, community, meditation community. It's about self-awareness. If we don't have the right support, the tools that can help us lead into any kind of recovery, any kind of healing, any kind of processes of self-improvement, then it can easily turn into an addiction. I understand that.
Yeah, and then even just the recovery process. I mean, just think about if you like you put it in departments. There's a spiritual aspect. I feel that the recovery and addiction, it has to do with a lot of self and a lot of, like maybe an absence of relationship between you and a higher power. And I don't mean to bring, my beliefs into it, but it's just, it is everything for me,
Yeah.
Like I said, spirituality, there's finances. How many people in a messed up financial situation, they lose their career, they lose their livelihood. Boom, addiction, morally, ownership, like, you know what I mean, discipline, perseverance, these are all areas where if you are lacking, and something comes along and is somewhat beneficial, somewhat
makes you feel good in the moment,
someone that just even if for 10, 15, 20 minutes it takes you away from something maybe you don't like, that people are gonna come back to that.
Of course. Yeah. So the idea here is to create a holistic foundation to support.
You need it.
Yeah. It's not just for kratom, right? This is for everything,
no,
even with food. I mean, we talk about fasting all the time in our community.
And I intermittent fast, for like almost daily, but yeah.
Again, coming back to this whole foundational part where you are having the self-awareness and having that discipline and creating almost like a ritualistic approach to these
very much
medicines.
Like for me, what helped me a lot in my personal recovery, when it came to me and the choices of drugs, I mean, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Drinking was something, that we did for fun. We do for fun. that continued throughout my professional history of being a fireman for New York City. And I would say my first like exposure to, like, besides that, I mean, it is alcohol and marijuana. As I got older, and I had a career where we couldn't do certain things. Like I wanted, like, to be honest, like smoke pot, like drinking became more of an outlet. And
because it's legal and because it's accepted,
because it's legal,
socially,
because it's
right?
accepted. It's just because it's a vice that's publicly, it's accepted. I mean, yeah. And it's crazy. So to me, like, I could go deep into that direction of the hypocrisy of that being FDA approved and whatever. But yeah, so just through the nature of my career, just dealing with people, carrying them, and life and death situations of property and life, it takes, your body gets broken down after just doing your job the way you're supposed to. And eventually, especially, I can't speak for now, but back in the day, if you had a sprain, if you had an injury, if you broke your bone, if you had a burn, and you told them that things hurt, they will hook you up. I mean, they will really hook you up. There's a good chance. I mean, before it became a pandemic, they're giving you 2 to 3 scripts off the back. You know what I mean? So
opiates,
opiates I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm talking about
drugs.
Yeah. So just naturally with the job, with my life, and taking on, like, just being a brand new father, brand new husband, I'm struggling, not doing everything right. Drugs and stuff like that became an outlet, and then it went from doing it socially to doing it with a small group of friends to a limited a group of friends to, oh shit, there's a problem, and
codependency,
codependency.
Yeah.
So, and naturally, when I put myself through rehabs, I was fighting my addiction personally, at least for a few years before I started seeking help. And it's almost like I felt like when I did seek help, I let everybody know, and I felt like my whole something so personal, yet so beautiful, because the end results, was exploited, and it was. But at the same time, it brought me forward to this plant. I mean, and I honestly, I remember when I first started really getting into the plant and the community and the industry and really understanding it. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, this is something special, but I could see why there's so much stigma to it. I could see why, and because even with myself, my addiction was leading my recovery. I'm like, I remember I needed to find the best and strongest, more potent kratom for my recovery. I wanted something to continue taking me away from things, but I want to call it recovery. And this is stuff that I'm finding out within the, programs that I took. I put myself through 3 rehabs, and my last one was a forced one because I got in trouble with the law, and I ended up losing my career. And
as a fireman,
as a fireman for New York City, basically, they needed to make an example for others. And if that sacrifice was something that I had to do and put my family through, that so be it. Like, to me, like, I understand today that everything happens for a reason. And though my life at one time was extremely prestiged, I came from rags to prestige career as a fireman to I would say a entrepreneur with a beautiful business and store. I mean, to losing it, or to understanding that there's different levels of rock bottom, to being humidity, like the humidity, but yet it's so beautiful.
This is so great. Thank you for sharing this. Yeah,
it's colorful.
This is the human experience, right? Because this is I think we struggle to share this with our fellow humans because of the way the society is conditioned to continually seek positivity.
What it is, people are embarrassed. People are embarrassed to be this raw, to be this weak.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know what I mean? Because it is like you have to get there in order to see a certain level. Like, I remember in a big in the aspect, I wish we didn't like just so much time in the aspect of recovery and kratom, because it's a whole other niche of possibilities with it. And if you would just switch it around to someone who is an entrepreneur or combative sport athletic, it's today's new coffee. I mean, that I just have to throw that in there. But in the aspect of it, like, and say pain, when people are experiencing pain, and there's a huge part of the community that use kratom because of anxiety, depression, pain. It's so the range is so wide, to be honest.
So versatile.
Yeah,
it's like any plant medicine, right? We have so much out there in the world. We don't even know half of it.
No, right. Absolutely. From animal venom. You know what I mean? Like frogs. But just an aspect of, I feel, and I've learned this again most recently with my back. Already a few times a year, my back, that the pain that I feel, like, I literally see white and black stars, and but I also realized too, and the point here is the pain, like when you feel that level of pain, suffering, and hurt, I feel that the person and the body goes down to like a frequency where truth is, and where you could legitimately hear if you don't numb it,
so beautiful.
the higher power of things. You can almost hear like you know what's really is for you, because I mean, just think about it. When you're in that type of pain, nothing else matters.
That's like the level that you know, where the pain cracks you open to
Right,
what
right. That's
what
what I'm
is,
trying.
yeah, to what is
Suffering does
real.
it too. Suffering will get
Mm.
you there too. So yeah.
Oh, it's the fastest. You know, they say in healing, in anything, in our human experience, they say there's always those moments of suffering that cracks us open to you know, to what is true, and to also to the humility,
Right.
where you surrender to this higher consciousness to emerge. So that's also the shift, you know, when the shift happens, the consciousness shift. And I'm guessing this is like the hardest thing, Daniel, to when you share your story, I can feel that you probably will struggle, because number one, many people are not willing to go there.
They're not.
They,
That's why they numb.
they,
That's why they do what they do, and they seek substance,
yeah.
they seek pleasure, they seek avoidance, they seek I mean yeah.
Exactly. And one of my favorite quotes is, you know, the way we live now in the Western society is like heads on sticks. We are so disconnected from our bodies. And, you know, I'm really passionate about the somatic experiencing. And, you know, in somatic therapy approach, it's always the body, working with the body, and also dropping into our bodies is the benchmark. You know, it's what makes us connect to that higher wisdom. And I guess pain or anything, any physical or personal suffering can take us to that point of cracking open moment where then everything changes. So how do you advise, you know, when people come to you asking questions about kratom, is there specific things? Do you struggle to you know, do you struggle to advise that?
Yes.
Look, there is a holistic thing behind this use of kratom. It's not just to take it to numb, but also you know, you've got to put in your meditation, you've got to put in your intention, your discipline, your, you know, commitment to your own self. How do you explain all of this?
When people come to me, they very direct, they just ask me about kratom, you know, tell me about it, you know, and I often tell them, I'm like, listen, I was like it's hard, you know, it's real hard depending on how you ask me. You know, because if you're asking me about kratom and you're having it within the same conversation of recovery, I may clam up, just simply because of the industry, of the community, how the FDA, that there's an ongoing war. Like, we're at the point of the plant where, I mean, a lot of people in the community don't want to hear this. Like, we're legitimately, there's a better chance of losing it than keeping it. And I mean, there's fractions. I said, it's just people, bunch of organizations and people, you know, like literally fighting to save it. And so when you have also the same organizations giving the FDA the ammunition to attack while fighting, you know what I mean?
Sounds very complicated.
It is extremely. So now when someone comes to me and they say, hey, Danny, what's your favorite? Boom. I be like, oh, you know, I'd be like, oh, I like the white rains, especially in the morning, because you know, I like to get shit done. You know, I want to leave my house like a warrior, and white veins help me. You know, to help me do
are
it.
you talking about there are different strains?
Yes, there's different strains of kratom. So, like I said, you know, it all depends on how you ask me. You know, if you're telling me, you know, hey, Danny, I'm interested in using kratom for recovery. I'm going to give you a life speech. I'm going to give you every struggle that I had with the plant and every struggle that I had with my addiction, because within the story is your answer. You know what I mean? And you know, and people get upset with me because they want me to tell them what they want to hear, but I am not going to feed your addiction. I understand. Like, I could spot someone where their addiction is leading their recovery, and let people be mad at me, but I'm not going to entertain that much.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do you know, when you go through the treacherous journey in healing yourself,
Yeah,
you do become a bit more assertive. You can see through the truth when people, choose to use these to whether to numb, whether to really be
right.
productive, whether to really also use it with respect. Because
Yeah, less is
another
more.
yeah
Less is
and
more.
yeah another thing that we have conditioned to do is just to consume. We're like the greatest
We're consuming
consumers on
race. We're
earth, right?
consuming,
Yeah,
right? Consuming just everything. Just where we consume. We consume energy. We
yeah,
consume light. We consume food. We yeah.
yeah. So how do you see going forward now? So it's illegal mostly everywhere, and
It's no. It's
creating
legal.
it's legal right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's like say perfect example. I mean, there are countries that do have it illegal. There's countries that do have it regulated, protected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the United States, there are states that do have it illegal to the point that they're matching it with heroin. Like,
Mm.
it's so sad. Oh my God. But it's very legal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do
to
you think
me,
it will? Do you think it will stay legal? Do you think there are threats to the? Yeah.
I think. Okay, this is what I think. I think that, and I could just bunch this up to just my beliefs. I think it's we're in a 50-50 when it comes to the plant and when it comes to things. And I feel that we have to be that one to offset the direction of things that we want for the positive, in the positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that if the people who are making the stigma a fact take lead, we're going to lose it.
Yeah.
You
It's
know, you
it's
know,
like everything, isn't it?
it's
It's
like
like
everything else. I think if the people take lead of the benefits and they do it respectfully and they do it rightfully and they understand the concerns, they're adults about it. I think that we have a chance. But I believe and I know for sure that the industry itself, the standards, the regulations, and everything needs to come from where the plant originates from.
yeah.
And that is Southeast Asia, and that is Indonesia. There's an organization called the World Kratom Organization, and they basically have soil to distributor standing operations, and basically they're joining forces or joint forces with the government. I mean, because like I said, it does get political.
Yeah.
End of the day, the government over there in Indonesia, they see that this cash crop plant is a major headache for them because of the direction things are going. But they don't get their taxes. So what they rather do, they rather end it, because they're getting all these, end of the day, it comes down to, even with the FDA, is a business. So when it comes to that, it definitely needs its standards. It does. It definitely needs its ownership. It definitely needs integrity. It does.
Yeah.
And it's just that those people, the World Kratom Organization, they just need to be more known, and understanding that of their efforts, is the right way. That's it.
Yeah, sounds like we need structure, a brand new structure for these plant medicines, just
Yeah,
like
it's a fair.
just like the entheogenic
No, just like
plant.
basically in the
Yeah.
essence. I mean, look at coffee. Look at raw
Mm,
cocoa. Look at
mm,
all these. Look at all these other plant medicines. I mean, coffee could be a medicine. Raw cocoa definitely is.
yeah.
There's a trade. There's a fair trade. There's people who took have accountability. They know what They know what plant, what tree, what section is harvested. They know who harvested it. They know who packaged it. You know what I mean? So if you don't, like, the industry itself, if you don't have that in place, that and then the export, just basically the export stand, the way they operating, yeah, the FDA is going to be all over it. You know what I mean? They're going to say it's not legitimate. They're going to say what they're saying today, that it's a plant for, that's a concern. They're going to say what they're saying today, that is not for human consumption. You know what I mean? But that's why the standards and the operation, and it needs to start from the soil.
Yeah.
And and I would say that today there are people like that, and I believe that in the direction that is going, I believe that Kratom will be here for a long time, and I believe that Kratom will be mainstream, and I believe that there's a to me, I think it should be in a Starbucks, it should be in the Walgreens, it should be on Amazon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it just needs the right people leading it.
Oh.
I think there are people there. Look, I mean, even there's a American Kratom Association. You know what I mean? So there are people that are fighting. There are people who are doing the right thing and want it here for everybody in the future.
That's a good news. Yeah, that's a good news. So, yeah, going forward, we need to have Kratom as a versatile,
as an option.
Yeah, as a versatile plant medicine, so that if people want to choose to use it intentionally with mature approach and responsible for pain, for whatever it is that they are going through. It's this is a no-brainer. Most plants are versatile. They have many healing benefits.
And everything is double-edged.
Yeah, it's about the person who is using the medicine.
Absolutely.
So what would you say? What would your concerns around people who are exploiting, people who are using it and are so addicted to it and they're giving it a bad name? Like, what would you say to them? How can we turn this around? How can we, give out a message to the world so that they can be a little bit more, come into it with an open mind and a holistic approach? What do you say to those people?
Straightforward, you're fucking it up for everybody. To be honest, I mean, there's people in the industry that's running the industry right into the ground, and they're just trying to make their dollar today. There's people who are attaching the Kratom to their addiction and they're abusing it, and I don't, maybe they are trying to use it to hurt themselves. There's people who are not separating their addiction and their recovery.
Yeah. And I feel like this is not so much about, having the holistic approach, but about healing people. Healing people from where they are, the suffering that they're in.
It's the person. End of the day, it's the person.
Yeah.
That's it. And I mean, there's and I'm sorry to say that there's people who would say that, who have lost people to Kratom.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, as a person, who has suffered, who way before I was named anything, way before people started calling me junkie, addict, or this and that. Like, if I remember when I tried to end my life, being prestige, whatever I took and whatever I was using could have, if I would have died, would have been because of that.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with it.
It's not about the substance. Yeah. It's the person.
It's the person.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. There's a lot of healing needs to be done, Daniel, in the world right now. They say, the real pandemic is the raising of the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD that's going to result of pandemic, the COVID. I think going forward, there has to be a time for all of us that are here in this moment to really take responsibility, extreme ownership.
Absolutely. Ownership. End of the day, ownership.
Yeah.
I'm huge on ownership. Oh my God.
No one can pull you, no one can push you, no one can heal you, change you. It's about us.
Because here's the deal, even at the end of the day, and it's something that I struggle with too. At the end of the day, we're accepting that even if we don't like a situation or this and that, and it prolongs, the ownership is we allowed it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all comes down to taking our own responsibility for our own lives and actions and behaviors. So that is so beautiful. So what's next for Daniel? So you're still on your healing journey to becoming better person. It's
Yeah,
an ongoing journey, right? It's just
that's
never
that.
ending.
There's no finish line there. Come
Of
on.
course. Mhm.
Matter
Yeah,
of fact, for any person that thinks there's a finish line, oh my God, God bless you.
yeah, exactly. So what's next for you in your adventures going forward? What are your intentions?
For me, I want to do my best to continue being the best father, the best husband, the best being, the best soul, the best entrepreneur, the best person I could be.
Mm,
I'm always trying to be better than I was yesterday. And sometimes I'm either catching up, sometimes I'm maintaining, and sometimes I'm getting ahead. And I said that to me, the world is open. To me, there's like nothing that could not be possible, to be honest. So I'm gonna continue doing my best to help people that I can by being an example. And if anybody that just wants, I don't know, like I said, I don't, people reach out to me for all different reasons, and I'm just one of that people know that I'm here. That's it.
yeah, I think that's what we're going to need more and more in the next few years, healing and recovering from the pandemic. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for offering yourself, your services, your story of your healing journey. That's incredible. Thank you so much.
No problem. So thank you. I hope this turned out.
Yeah, I think, sharing your wisdom in, especially in a plant medicine space, having an intimate relationship with a certain plant medicine. And when people listen to that, I think it really changes people's perception and also gives people the context, how it's supposed to be used, and also makes us think, right? Because again, we keep continually coming back to our own behavior, our own decisions and actions in this world. I think this is a really good message. And one last question: how can they source it safely, stay safe? And is there any tips? Is there anything you could say for as your last words?
How can you source it? Do your research first. Before you think of consuming anything, do all your homework, do all your research. There's tons of sources out there. Look at the company, look how what they're doing with it. Look how it just I would say plant medicine tends to call people. And so were the sources of the people who have it. So
do your due diligence and really be proactive, researching, understanding what you're getting into, I guess.
Exactly. That's the end of the day. Whatever source defines you or you find it is for you. So some people know the plant intimately. I will always advise that you should talk to those people, and if they're telling you and they're making claims and they're promising you things, I would stay clear from them.
As always, great tip.
As always, that's it.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much again. This was a pleasure to have this conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode as well on Kratom. It's the unsung plant medicine. Many people don't know, but it has been used for ancient times, as always.
Yeah.
As a medicine, as versatile as you can, your imagination can go, and it's a beautiful medicine, and it needs to be protected. It needs to be respected. Again, it needs to be used in the right setting and the mindset. And quick disclaimer, it is not for everybody. Please do your research and really go into it with a conscious mind. With that said, thank you so much, Daniel. All the best.
Absolutely.
And we'll have you back very soon again.
Okay, sounds good, Susan.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure, and let's do it.
Bye for now.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. See you on the next one.
Bye.
Much love. Thank you so much for joining us. Psychedelic Conversations podcast is designed to educate, inform, and expand awareness. For more information, please head over to psychedelicconversations.com. You can also share with your friends or leave a review so that we can reach more people. You can also join us in our private Facebook group to keep the conversation going. This show is for information purposes only, and it is not intended to provide mental health or medical advice. Thanks for listening.